Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started, and Don will be logging on shortly, and then he will join us. So hi, everybody. Welcome to the Data Incubator's info session. My name is Erica Underwood, and I am the director at the Data Incubator. As I mentioned, we're also going to have one of our instructors, Don Fox, joining me as well. He is one of our beloved instructors, and he's going to be going over the kind of technicality of our capstone project and our curriculum and what you can expect. We are going to provide you some tips, tricks, and insider help to help you master your capstone proposal, not just for the interview process of our program, but also as you go throughout our course. So to start things off, I'd love to just give you guys a quick overview of our program and everything that we offer. We're also going to be taking questions at the end, so if you have any questions, you can put those in the chat computer or in the Q&A section, and we will get to that at the end of this info session. If we don't get to all of your questions, or you have a personal question that you don't feel comfortable asking, or you want to reach out to us directly, you can always reach us at admissions@thedataincubator.com, and we will be there. Great. So I want to just tell you a little bit about our program. What do we do? Who are we? Well, our program is very thorough. We each week focuses on a different data science tool or approach. In addition to the lectures that we do every day, we have students participate in hands-on practice. We really believe in fostering an interactive learning environment, and each week you will be working on mini projects focused on different data science tools that you'll be working on throughout our curriculum, and then hopefully once you get into a place of employment. Our program is very collaborative. So we want students to not only work with their colleagues and instructors, but also work on presenting a company. Part of our program is working on this capstone project. You'll have the opportunity to practice several pitches amongst yourself, some peers and instructors, and then hopefully you could get selected to present at our capstone showcase, which is in front of a group of our hiring partners. And then our course is very career focused. So a big component of our program that we really pride ourselves in is helping students not only grasp data science concepts, but getting them placed in a field, in that field. And so 97% of our students that go through our program are currently employed outside of academia, and 88% are... And sorry, guys, I'm just going to mute. I don't think you're muted, so we can hear you. 88% of our students are employed 6 months after completing our program. So that's a little bit about our program. It's an 8-week-long course. We can provide you a curriculum so you can see everything that we go through. As I mentioned, each week is a mini project that focuses on an aspect of data science. And then we also do that capstone project. Okay, so hey, Sarah, I think you're not muted, so we can hear you. So can you mute yourself? I'm trying to mute you, and it's not working. Okay, great. So let's talk a little bit about the capstone project. A lot of people want to know, what's the point? What is the point of this capstone project?
To follow market.
And the capstone project is a chance for students to drive a project from conception through delivery. This demonstrates their ability to apply skills, taught lectures, and mini projects. It also requires them to manage all stages of the project. So it's a clear business use case provided value of good capstone projects are generally more impressive than any technical or implementation details. So think of this as a portfolio piece. This is what our hiring partners love to see. Obviously, you have all your accomplishments listed on your resume, but many of them love to see it in work, and that is this capstone project. It's just you showcasing your skills and your business application in a project that you've worked on and that has real objective. It also allows students that don't have particular work experience in this field to demonstrate their strengths and their knowledge without that work experience. So a lot of our hiring partners look to the capstone project as a way of you to sell yourself and to say, hey, I don't have work experience, but you can see in this project everything I've done, and you can see how I've implemented what I've learned here. So what are the use cases for these capstone projects? As I mentioned earlier in the session, a great capstone project can be a useful tool for you to navigate future job interviews. It's also, as I mentioned, a great showcase for your skills and abilities to work with data to drive business decisions and values. It can be used to help your resume stand out from other applicants. The best capstone projects in our program are selected to present at our capstone showcase. So that is another great way to show off all of your hard work. So what are our capstone project requirements? So the details of an excellent capstone project are going to depend on the project itself. So we'll not give, super detailed requirements. We want to foster creativity. We want you guys to be able to take a project and run with it. But we do have a few criteria that all capstone projects must meet. One, we are obviously looking for a clear business objective. And this does not matter the industry or the field. It could be a B2B or a B2C. It doesn't matter. We just want a kind of a business objective that is solving a problem. Data ingestion is something else that we're looking for, and visualization. So everybody's capstone project must have those three components. And then we're looking for at least one of the following. So we want some aspect of machine learning, or an aspect of distributed computing, or an interactive website or app. And then lastly, we do ask that everybody has a deliverable, whether that is the app that's working or the website that's working, or some kind of a machine learning algorithm that you can point to that you come up with. All of those things are kind of the deliverable at the end of this. We have some great examples of capstone projects. I can click here and have you guys watch those. I'm not sure if we have enough time. That being said, if you do want to see some examples of our capstone projects, feel free to email us and we'll send you some examples. You can email us again at admissions@thedataincubator.com and we'll send you some examples. So everybody kind of wants to know tips for getting the best capstone project. How do I start? Where do I start? And let's talk about that a little bit. So the biggest thing that we find is you want to make it personal and show a passion, right? So select a project that interests you and that you're passionate about. Is there a problem in the world that you'd like to solve? Is there a particular field of data science that interests you? Picking a topic that you care about helps elevate your project to the next level. It shows us and employers that you are passionate, enthusiastic, and engaged. If there is a connection to you in that project, it will come out when you're talking about it. It'll come out in your work, and it goes a lot further than one might think. Get creative and strive for a unique project. We have been around for a while, and so we have seen some very similar projects. So anytime that we see a unique or creative project, everybody is super interested in it, and it gets a lot of excitement. So definitely picking a unique or creative project will help you stand out from other students in your cohort. So now you want to start on your project. You want to start on your project now. You don't have to wait to be accepted into our program. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, this is part of the interview process, is presenting this capstone project. So you don't have to wait. And in fact, even if you don't make it into our program, having a capstone project to show and to discuss in interviews with any hiring partner or company is going to be a really great asset. So if you are interested, definitely think that you should start working on a data set, thinking about the business objective, even if you're not doing the actual work, but just thinking about what you would want to do. So you're going to also want to craft an outline of the steps you will take. So organize your thoughts, create a project outline, have a clear idea of what you'd like to accomplish with the projects and the steps needed to make it happen. Things that you're going to want to consider is, where are you going to find that data? Is it reliable? Is it public data? What tools and approaches are you going to use to accomplish your goal? Who is your audience? This is a big one. You want to make sure that the goal of the project is aligned with your audience. And what are your short-term and long-term goals? This is a fast-paced project in the sense that you're really working on it roughly about 10 weeks. You can certainly work on it after our program, but you want to be realistic in what you can accomplish in those 10 weeks and be smart about how you go about accomplishing that. Great. So now you want to understand what problem your project aims to solve. So think about your end goal. Who is this project and who this project will be helpful for? What is the problem and how is it going to solve that? These are going to help you determine what decisions to make when coming up with your capstone and moving forward with that. And then you're going to also want to consider who would be the most interested in the success of your project. We've mentioned it a few times because it's a very important part of your project. Knowing your audience and knowing why they should care about this project will help you understand how to position that project. So another important part of the capstone that we've discussed is hiring partners and their interest in it. So a lot of you are like, great, I have these cool project ideas, but I also want to know what's going to help me get hired. What are companies looking for? What do they want to see? So as I mentioned before, they want to see unique projects. A lot of our hiring partners have been with us since we started, and so they've seen their fair share of capstone projects. So anything that is thinking outside the box is going to be beneficial for you and how you stand out amongst your peers. They're also going to want to make sure that you have a clear business objective or takeaway, even if it's not in their industry. So even if you do a project on finance, but it's a transportation company, they could still find a use case. Like, hey, this kind of machine learning that you used here could definitely be implemented in our scenario, or this kind of problem is similar to things that we focus on. So just making sure that there is a clear takeaway or business objective, the problem that you're solving is going to be helpful for you. Something applicable. Showcase your technical abilities. As I mentioned, this is like a portfolio piece to your resume. You want to show everything that you're able to do and how you did it, and really just be able to highlight your abilities and everything you've learned in our program or outside of our program, just all of your knowledge. And lastly, you want to show off your data visualization skills. That is a week of our program. We help you guys learn those skills. And this is really important because this is what is impressive to those non-data science people. These are the people that are going to love it, your CEOs and your CFOs that are going to love the visualizations that you're putting out there. So part of the capstone project is pitching it and talking about it and telling that story. So we're going to give you some tricks and tips that we know that work well here. So your capstone project is telling a story. And the best way to do that is to know and engage your audience and provide context. So the what matters just as much as the why. You want to set the stage for what you're discussing. We always love capstone projects that talk about why I chose this, how it's personal for me. And then you want to make the why easy to understand. That, again, that goes into that business objective. What is the point of this project? And really speaking to that. You want to pay attention to your delivery. These are little things that go a long way. So speaking clearly with confidence. You don't want to speak too fast. You know, every time we are nervous, we speak even faster. So it's often great to practice even slower than you think you should, because when you're in that moment, you're going to be speaking fast, if not at normal pace. You also want to notice the tone of your voice. That speaks a lot of volume about what you're trying to say and how you're trying to convey it. How are you emphasizing what you're saying by inflections in your voice? You can also record yourself and take notes. There are a lot of things that we do that we don't realize we do, like saying ums or the word like. So recording yourself is a good way to see potential bad speaking habits that we might have gotten into. So you want to end with a bang. Every story has a beginning, middle, and end, and that is how your presentation should be set up as well. You want to start off with, here is my project, this is why I chose it, get into the nitty-gritty and the meat of everything that you've worked on and how you've come to it, and then the end is that conclusion, is that, that solution to the problem or the business objective that you've identified. You want to focus on the business implications. What can you take away from this? Will your audience leave wanting more, you know? And if so, talk about what further plans you can do here. What more can you add to this? If your project isn't completed, which it might not be in 8 to 10 weeks, talk about what you can do further here. Talk about what you plan on doing further here. This is a great way to highlight that there's still work to do. You want to make sure that your pitch is focused, because we give 3 minutes and that will go fast. So learning how to self-audit is definitely a skill. So one of the things that you can look at is, did you understand the main message that you were trying to convey? Was the message interesting? Would someone want to learn more after hearing your presentation? Was I likable? These are all things that if you record yourself, kind of watch it back, you can ask, and then figure out, maybe I don't need to say this, maybe I can tweak this. And this is important to do. If you have a small window to present, especially in front of companies that are hiring, you want to make sure that you're putting your best presentation forward. Great. So we've talked about capstone projects, the importance, how do we find what we're going to do, how do we make a good capstone project. We've talked about how to present our capstone projects, but we haven't talked about what this means for our admissions process at the Data Incubator. So I want to go over what that looks like a little bit, so then you can understand the context of all of this. So we do admission interviews, and what do those look like? Well, the group interviews run for approximately an hour, and they're all done virtually. And you're going to be in a group of either between 3 to 6 people, depending on how many people have signed up for your slot. You're going to be with somebody from our partnership team as well as an instructor. You're going to be asked to present your initial capstone project findings for 2 to 3 minutes each. You'll have the opportunity to share a link to your work. Many people use a PowerPoint presentation or share their GitHub, and just walk us through a mini presentation. We do not ever think that you will have a capstone project done. We know that this is just preliminary. Hey, this is the project I think I'm going to be working on. Here are some plots that I've worked on. But, you know, the whole point is that you're going to be working on this project throughout our cohort. So we do not expect a completed project at this point. Just a couple of minutes talking about what you'd like to work on, the data set that you envision using, and maybe some preliminary work that you've done. As I mentioned, the focus of this presentation should be on the project proposal you've submitted on your application. And yes, you can change it. It doesn't have to match, but ideally you've kind of thought about this a little bit when you were submitting the application. You're going to want to discuss the motivation for tackling this project, maybe discuss the data sources that you're going to use, and explain the analysis that you're performing. After you've presented your project, the instructors may have some questions that they will ask you that might address the scope, the audience, the takeaway, All of these, maybe any other technical questions that they have about your data set, any questions that they just might have that might clarify anything. After that, our partnership team will also ask you some questions related to your job search preferences. This is just to help us get an idea of what you're looking for outside of the program, after the program ends, as far as hiring companies are concerned, so we can match you with a good location and try and set you up with hiring partners that you would be interested in. So how to prepare for these interviews. So first things first, test your technology. All of our interviews are conducted on Zoom. I think at this point we all are familiar with Zoom and know how Zoom works. But if not, make sure you log on to Zoom and you have some practice there. You want to familiarize yourself with the chat interface. That's where we have you guys share links to your GitHub or your project. You definitely want to make sure that you have a quiet space with little interaction and great internet access. You also want to make sure you schedule your interview ASAP. Our spots are first come, first serve, and we set a week out for these interviews, so we cannot extend the interviews past that week. Something else to note is that our times are listed in Eastern Standard Time, so if you are on the West Coast, that might have you do some math, but just keep that in mind. If you ever have any questions about scheduling those interviews, you can reach us at our admissions email. But generally, we think a good rule of thumb is first come, first serve. Get that spot in, get that time scheduled so you know when you're going to be presenting and you can just start preparing. You want to look professional, at least on the top half. It's a virtual interview, so make sure you don't have to dress up, but you want to look professional. These are essentially interviews. You want to prepare in advance, as we've kind of talked about. You want to practice your pitch beforehand, either recording it yourself or doing it in front of somebody else. Review your talking points, and try not to read off anything directly. Sometimes you can tell in presentations when somebody is just reading off of a sheet. Since these are only an hour, try to limit distractions. Of course, life happens, but those distractions can get in the way of your presentation. And lastly, be confident. Students that are confident, even if something happens in their presentation, it just goes a lot further when they are confident and are passionate about what they are presenting. Some other tips, keep working on your projects and make sure you present more than what you were able to complete during your challenge. So even when you've done the challenge, you've submitted that application, keep working on that. You're going to get an interview slot, and so you're going to want to make sure you have things to present. Work on having a compelling intro. Who is this project useful for? How will it help them? All of those questions that we've already discussed, that's a great way to come in with a bang and start off the presentation addressing some of those. You also want to make sure you have a memorable presentation and takeaway. You know, we interview a lot of people. You want to stand out. So showing technical accomplishments or really highlighting a problem that you're going to solve here is great. Be specific. Tell us about how much data you analyze, the tools that you use, the techniques that you use, any other information that will set you apart. Again, you want to make sure you're concise. You only have 2 to 3 minutes to present here, so making sure that you're fitting in the most important things in those 2 to 3 minutes. Because we want to be fair with all of our applicants, we will cut you off at that 3-minute mark, or we will have to limit it. So you want to make sure that you prioritize what you're saying in that time. You want to be natural. You want to make sure that you are talking like a human, that you're having like a conversational tone. Take a deep breath, be confident, and just know that it's going to be okay. It's just an interview. And you just are just talking about all the work that you put into. And that's it. That gives you guys a good overview of what to expect in our interview and the capstone project and how they all correlate together. I want to remind you that our winter cohort will be running from January 11th to March 5th. And we are currently taking applications right now. So the deadline to apply is actually this Friday at 11:59 p.m. UTC. Do not wait until that time. Apply now, because what if internet fails? What if something happens? I never believe in waiting to the last minute. After you complete your application, we do ask that you do a challenge, which we've kind of discussed, in that it will be a coding challenge, and then you'll write a little bit about your proposed capstone project. That is due November 9th. Okay, so the last day to submit your application is the 6th, and we give you 72 hours from that date to complete your challenge, and that makes that due on November 9th. I wouldn't wait for these deadlines. I would do this sooner rather than later, because things happen, internet goes down. It's just, don't wait on those things. If you have any questions about your application or the process or anything, you can always reach us at admissions@thedataincubator.com. And I posted a link, but I'll repost it again. If you want to go to that website, that is where you can apply for our winter 2021 session. I'm not sure if anybody has any questions. We'll go ahead and start taking some of those. In the meantime, I do want to say that our session for 2021 is still going to be all online for everybody's safety. So that is where we're at. We are hoping for spring we can potentially open up in person. Okay, so if you have any questions, feel free to post them. Let me see what we have going on here. Can we present a project which was done previously or expect to work on a new project? If you're talking about, if you're applying again, you can apply again with the same project. If you're talking about, in general, somebody else's project, then I think you should do your own. But if you have a project and you've applied and you're applying again, you can absolutely use that same project. Somebody's saying, would the training give hands-on experience in all of these requirements? Machine learning, I'm not sure I know all these abbreviations, so that the participant can choose one or a combination of these options in framing the capstone project. Interactive website, thank you. Yes, so we will have exposure and experience with all of these in our program. We ask that you do at least one of these in a capstone project, but you will absolutely work with all of those aspects while you're in our program, and you should leave our program feeling confident in all of those areas. We limit it just because it's an 8-week program, so implementing all of that into one project can be a lot. You certainly can, and that would be very rock star of you if you do, but we want to make sure you're successfully completing a capstone, that you have a portfolio piece to walk away with. So that's why we do just ask that you select one. But of course, you can always add on to that down the road. What if we reach a dead end while during the proposed capstone project? Is it possible to propose another one? Yeah, I think, you know, it is a tight deadline. So we often encourage you guys to be thoughtful in selecting a project in the beginning, because anytime you have to switch it up, it does put you a bit behind. That being said, you can change your capstone project at any point in time. And it sometimes happens. You know, we have students that pick a data set and they get down to it and it's just not working. It's just, they just can't proceed forward. And that's okay. It's a learning lesson in itself. So you can absolutely propose another one at any point in time throughout the program. You can absolutely email us. I'll repeat it, but I'll also post it in the chat. It's admissions@thedataincubator.com. Just following up. Is there somewhere we can find out more information about hiring partners in different locations? Yeah, absolutely. We have a hiring partner list that we can share with you guys. Just email us admissions@thedataincubator.com, and we'd be happy to share that list with you. You know, some of our hiring partners have publicity clauses, which is why we cannot post anything on our website, but we do have a list that we can provide that will give you an idea of our hiring partners and where they're located and what you can expect there. When can we expect the interview email? If you applied for our regular admissions, that will be, let me look at a calendar. So as I mentioned, the application closes on November 6th. You can expect an email from us that following Friday, if not before, asking you to interview with us. So I believe that date is the Friday the 13th. Lucky Friday the 13th. So you will hear from us as far as interviews are concerned by November 13th. And you'll be able to schedule those, and those will take place the following week. Normally, we give a little bit of time there, but due to the holidays, we are going to be interviewing the following week. And so in this case, it's very important that you sign up for those spots as soon as you get that interview, because it is really going to be a quick week trying to get these interviews done before Thanksgiving. Somebody said, if you have an idea, but I don't have any data, do you have some project database? We do actually on our website have a blog posting about public data sets that are good for these capstone projects. So take a look at our website. I'll also try and find that and link it in the email that we send out to you guys after this with the recording. Any publicly known data set is great, and there are actually a lot of them. I know in New York, a lot of people look at city bike data, which is the rental bikes. There's also publicly data set for Chicago crime, which is a fun one to look at. There's also taxi cab data in New York. So these are just some of them, but I know we have a whole list of databases that are publicly available that you can use for these projects. How does the Capstone Showcase work for the online courses? Great question. So yes, we traditionally did do these in person at our classrooms, but because of COVID, we've moved everything online. The great news is that we've actually had more hiring partners able to attend virtually than coming into our classrooms. So the turnout has increased since we've gone online. We're also able to accommodate more presenters since we're online. So typically these capstone showcases are 2 hours long. The first hour is where we have 4 to 6 presenters present their capstone project. Usually about a 5-minute presentation, and then we do some Q&A afterwards for anybody that has questions on your project that you're presenting. After that, we want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to network with the hiring partners, so we do Zoom breakout rooms. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but basically there is a button that we can click on Zoom. It'll auto-populate you into a smaller group with about 5 people, and you can do some networking sessions with the hiring partners in attendance. We do 2 showcases, a cohort, and we have hiring partners at both. I think this time around we had 7 to 8 hiring partners at each showcase, and we had 6 students present at each one, so a total of 12 students presented. What you'll do after you make it into our program, the first couple weeks are just getting you acclimated with our program, helping you with these capstone projects. By week 5, you're going to do what we call a kind of a pitch presentation tryout, if you will. And this is where you're going to get with your class and you're going to do your 3-minute practice pitch. At that point, everybody votes on their favorite presenter, and the instructors and the partnership team pick the top 4 to 6 students that would present to hiring partners. So after you guys if you get selected to present at a capstone, then you do a couple of different breakouts where you practice your pitch, you work with the instructors to help perfect it. So you have lots of opportunities to work on presenting this capstone and a lot of practice, which goes a long way, especially in interviewing. So this is a really great opportunity for everybody to get comfortable with speaking and presenting their work in public. Somebody wants to clarify, and they are correct. So yes, the deadline to submit an application is November 6th, but the deadline to submit a challenge is November 9th. I also want to clarify that once you click on your challenge button, you have 72 hours. So keep that in mind, but also if you click on your challenge button after that Friday deadline, if you click on Saturday, you're going to have less than 72 hours because the last challenge has to be in on November 9th. Okay, so make sure you're looking at that. Everything is done by 11:59 UTC. Maybe Google that so you know exactly what that means. If you have any questions or you want to clarify exactly for your case, reach out to us at admissions@thedataincubator.com. But unfortunately, if we do not have your challenge by November 9th, you cannot be considered for our January 2021 session. So make sure you guys are applying and getting everything done before that deadline. If there's anything after that, we can't open it up. Do we have a list of past successful capstone projects? Absolutely. So email us and we'll send you some YouTube links to check out. How many people are part of each cohort? Roughly, that depends on how many applicants we have. Hi, Don. I can hear you.
All right. Sorry about that.
I'm just answering some questions. If anybody has any questions for our instructor, Don, go ahead and post those. I was just saying how many people we have in each cohort. So the last couple cohorts, we've had about 60 students. Because it's virtual, we're able to accommodate more. So that's been one of the positives, I guess, in going all virtual. Don,
so
while
I can add in here, yeah, I think a couple of things that you want to consider when you work with your project is be passionate about it. Be passionate, be excited about it. Get us interested in your project. I think one of the best ones that we've seen, the ones that I really like, is where someone can talk about a subject that I really don't have much interest in, for example, wrestling, but they're so passionate about it, they're able to outline how this product aims to improve. In this case, we're looking at wrestling coaches and wrestling players and generally the wrestling organization as a whole. When I say wrestling, I don't mean WWE, but I mean like Olympic wrestling. The other thing I put in mind is sometimes we ask, have a unique project, but something that's really hard. And what I really ask if you're looking for a unique project is ask yourself, what have people done in the past, and what are you bringing that is new to the table? What can you do to make your capstone stand out from everything else? What is the different angle? Are you analyzing things differently? You're bringing in a different data set. What are you doing that is different from everything else from before?
That's a good point, Don. Don, do you have any insights on doing the interview? I talked a little bit, but maybe from an instructor's perspective?
Yeah, I think for the interview is practice, 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 right? The pitch, we give you about up to 3 minutes, so you can do a lot of practices within an hour. And what you do is just look yourself in the mirror and just go for it. Be self-critical. Be self-critical of yourself. You might help if you record yourself. You do like set up like I know I use OBS where you can record yourself giving some sort of presentation. I think you can record it and analyze where are you being effective, where are areas you can improve on, and start off with give us something, give us a hook, right? Talk about direct. For example, one of the people who we had just recently at Capstone Showcase, she was doing a book recommendation project. So right off, she said, I am very passionate about reading. It's one of my favorite subjects. However, when I go on to Goodreads, I look at the recommendations they give me, and they're not really good recommendations. So right off the bat, we know that she's passionate. We know that what she's going to do for her capstone, what's the problem she's going to solve, and why the current solutions are inadequate. So make sure you got up a good start, get us connected, get us hooked to what you want to talk about, and then go from there.
Awesome. I mentioned this a little bit, but from your perspective, Don, how much of the capstone project needs to be completed when you're doing the challenge submission part of the application?
What we're really looking for in the challenge submission part is, have you outlined a very concrete project? Can you let us know that you've thought this out, you understand the space, you have some sort of plan? Of course, the best laid plans, they don't ever go our way. So however we see that, okay, you put some time into it, you understand what are the avenues, what is your trajectory, and you also have a great motivation and a business objective. You're able to answer the question is, what's the purpose behind this project? What problem is it going to solve? Right? You don't have it solved by the time you go into the interview, but you've definitely thought about what problem it will solve, who is going to impact the most, who are key stakeholders.
Great. Does anybody else have any other questions for Don or myself? Don, do you have a capstone project that stands out as one of your favorite, or a strong capstone project that you remember?
I think one of the strong capstone projects is one who was looking at identifying Roman coins. And it was a pretty cool project because definitely he was passionate about these Roman coins. And he talked about, hey, there's a pretty big space out there of people who are into Roman coins. But the problem they have is who is on the face of the coin? What emperor is on the face of the coin? Because that's where you can determine the rarity of the coin. And that's what these collectors want. So, you know, every time he gave a speech, one of the things I like to do is let's go on Wikipedia, learn a little more about Roman emperors and coin values and whatnot. So I was not interested in that space at all. But he definitely outlined a problem he was trying to solve, who are the users, and he got me excited to want to learn about this stuff after the fact.
Awesome. Let's see. Somebody's asking what kind of background our typical candidates have. Don, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think most of our candidates come from the STEM field, coming from engineering and the sciences. We have also people coming from backgrounds of economics, backgrounds of psychology as well. Nowadays, lots of fields are finding themselves that, hey, we need data analysis, we need data science on our respective fields. So we see a wide range of people's backgrounds coming in.
Still some questions about the challenge due date. It could vary depending on when you apply. So if you've applied earlier, like I said, you have 72 hours to complete your challenge when you click that button. And the deadline is until November 9th. I would not recommend waiting until that. Things happen. Do it earlier. Make sure you get that challenge in. Once you submit the challenge, then depending on when that date is, you might have some time to wait, and you might have some more time to work on your capstone, which is another benefit to completing the challenge earlier. So we will be sending out interviews, like I said, on Friday the 13th, November 13th. So that's when you can expect to hear from us. So if you've already submitted your challenge, I would just say use this time to get ahead on that capstone project. It's only going to help you with your presentation. Don, can you just give a brief overview on what they can expect in the challenge part of the application?
Yeah, so for the challenge part, there are three things. There is your proposed project, and then there's a challenge about more of a focus on seeing your computer science, your programming skills. So you can think of it as a CS problem, some sort of probability problem involved where you show off your computer science capability. And then the third part of it is the data challenge. We give a prompt, we give a data set, we have to download that data set, and a set of questions that you need to answer with regards to that data set. So it's the project that you're going to propose, what we call the CS challenge, and as well as a data challenge. Downloading a data set and answering a set of questions related to that data set.
Great. Somebody's asking, does the project need to be based on your partner's business objectives? Would it be helpful if it's aligned with those objectives? And I would say no. Don can chime in if he wants, but I think, again, the biggest thing here is picking a unique project that you are passionate about. That's what's going to come across stronger to hiring partners than something that is in their same industry. I've seen a lot of finance capstone projects that just are not as strong because there's not as much passion there as somebody that does one on perhaps a book recommender or a recipe recommender. You know, things like that people are more excited about. The presentations tend to be a bit stronger there.
And if I can add in, I want to say that you should always, when you work on your capstone, ask yourselves, the things that I'm doing for this capstone, how can I translate it to different fields? Of course, you're not going to be maybe recommending books or recommending recipes. You might be recommending certain stocks to pick in a portfolio. So I think our hiring partners do understand that, you know, whatever you're working on is not tied to your specific field, but the skills that were required and the techniques you use to solve that problem can be easily transferred to different areas, to different fields.
And Don, you know, before we wrap this up, I think for the interview process, I talked a little bit about how to prepare for that 3-minute pitch, but is there any kind of insight or advice you have and maybe some additional work that they can share either from GitHub or what they should prioritize in that?
I think is getting ready to talk about, think of certain key visualizations that can really demonstrate the progress you've made on your project. We also understand is where is the next step. So of course, at the interview stage, you're not going to have a completed project. But if you let us know what you've currently done and be able to have visualizations to describe that, and give us a good feel for where you're going to go next, I think that's really crucial.
All right. Somebody's asking, how much does the program use GitHub?
Yeah, so regarding how much, we don't post anything on our GitHub. So, however, a lot of people who go through the program like to host their capstone project on GitHub. And a couple of things sometimes during the course, I might create a GitHub repo to demonstrate some sort of concept. So, for example, a couple of weeks ago, I had a GitHub where I demonstrated how to use Flask and Altair. So, Flask is a web service in Python. Altair is a visualization package. So through those lessons, I showed them my personal GitHub project that combines Flask and Altair. But we definitely teach Git through the course, and GitHub is just basically one vendor to host your Git repo. So it's rather popular. So people go through and like to use it to host their capstone, which is also great because then you can link that to your resume, give that to prospective hiring partners. You want to see a set of projects, my portfolio that you're crafting as you go through your data science career. Take a look at it. People often give their GitHub, their GitLab, whatever service they're hosting the project. Great way to point to it. Great way for employees to see what you worked on and you understand how to work with version control and be able to see you take from some sort of seed of an idea to some sort of finished project or product.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Well, I don't see any new questions, so we'll wrap things up here. If there's anything that we did not get to or you have some additional questions that you think about after the fact, you can always reach us at admissions@thedataincubator.com. I've also posted the link to apply in the chat. Make sure you check out our application if you haven't done so already. It is due by this Friday, November 6th, for our next session, which starts on January 11th. So make sure you get that in. That is going to be huge. You will know before the holidays, and you can plan life accordingly. That is why it's early. We want you guys to be able to enjoy the holidays and then hopefully come learn data science with us in January. So if you have any questions, reach out to us. Thank you guys for attending. I hope this was helpful. And Don, thank you for joining me. Sorry for the technical difficulties in the beginning.
Yeah, thank you for your patience.
No worries. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. Hope to see y'all soon.